I would like to call the Richmond Advisory Plan Commission to order. Let's do roll call, please.
Lynn Park. Mike Devine.
Aye.
Matt Evans.
Present.
Joe Price.
Here.
Tiana Washington.
Here.
Greg Steens.
Here.
Rob Tidrow.
Here.
Gary Turner.
Here.
Based off that number, I believe we have quorum, yes? Okay. Next on the agenda is the election of officers. So at this time, I will take nominations for president. Are there any nominations for president?
I'd like to nominate Bruce Whistle, who declared that he would be interested in running as president again.
Okay. I have the name of Bruce Whistle. Is there any other nominations for president?
I'll second that nomination.
It's been moved and second. Other nominations for president? Other nominations for president? Other nominations for president? Seeing as there's no other nominations, looks like Bruce Whistle is president of the Richmond Advisory Plan Commission. Moving on to the next office, we need a vice president. So entertain names for vice president at this time.
I'll nominate Gary Turner as vice president.
There's been a name of Gary Turner as vice president. Other names for vice president?
Second the nomination for Gary Turner.
And it's been seconded. Other names for vice president? 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 Seeing as there's no other nominations, looks like, Gary, you are our vice president.
All
Can we
right.
take a vote on that, on those two real quick, those two positions?
Let's do the first one for president for Bruce Whistle. Starting with, at the end,
Call the roll.
call roll.
Lynn
Aye.
Park. Michael Devine.
Aye.
Matt Evans.
Aye.
Joe Price.
Aye.
Tiana Washington.
Aye.
Greg Steens.
Aye.
Rob Tidrow.
Aye.
Gary Turner.
Aye.
I believe that is, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 8. Yeah,
You can do
okay.
Roll call for the vice president.
Now we'll do roll call for vice president, and that will be Gary Turner. Roll call, please.
And Lynn Park.
Aye.
Michael Devine.
Aye.
Matt Evans.
Aye.
Joe Price.
Aye.
Tiana Washington.
Aye.
Greg Steens.
Aye.
Rob Tidrow.
Aye.
Gary Turner.
Aye.
All right. There's no other offices, correct?
That's it.
All right. Yay, I get to move. Here's your seat, sir.
Well, you can't leave. Not leave.
Or it's me.
Here is your
I'm warm.
Oh, thank you.
Just pretty sure you.
Okay. Proof of public notice, please.
Want to do minutes?
Get minutes first.
Oh, sorry. Yep, jump one. You all received minutes in your packet. Any concerns, questions, corrections?
Yes. My last name has been, there's typos on it in 3 different places. Washington has been misspelled. Yeah. Yeah.
There are no other corrections. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections by Ms. Washington.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, proof of publication.
And after proof of publication, we'll have a quick announcement for the audience, and we'll also ask Mike Devine to talk about a possible disclosure if the board wants to vote on that. So we do have a proof of publication tonight. It states the time, date, place, and items on the agenda for tonight's public hearing. This notice is in order to hold the public hearing, and I would ask the commission to make a motion to accept the proof of publication.
I'll make the motion to accept the proof of publication.
Can I second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the proof of publication. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So I've been advised that some of the audience members were asked to sign in if they were going to be speaking tonight. So we did speak with some of the commission members beforehand on a time limit. I guess there had been 2 prior neighborhood meetings, but also because this is a public hearing, we want to make sure that everybody does have an opportunity to be heard. So we did pass out a sign-up sheet, and that is listed up with the chairman at this time. We are going to ask each speaker to limit their comments to 3 minutes approximately. I do have a timer. If anybody in the audience wishes to have the board stipulate that they are going to be speaking on exactly the same evidence, we can stipulate that that evidence has already been spoken to by members of the public. And so, other than that, we can move on to the next agenda item, although Mike did have a disclosure to potentially vote on.
I just wanted to notify everyone that I received a notification of this project because I live in an adjacent property. My house backs up, I'm in Winfield, and my property backs up to 37th Street. I have no vested interest in this project directly, other than as a commissioner, and I would like to ask the board if they would accept me in this position or ask me to recuse myself from this vote.
There's no fiscal impact to your household.
None whatsoever.
So if the board would like to just take a poll, or it could take a vote, if it would just be okay with Mike continuing to sit on this commission for this meeting.
We'll just take a vote. We'll do a roll call. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Lynn Park,
Aye.
Aye.
Matt Evans,
Aye.
Joe Price,
Aye.
Tiana Washington,
Aye.
Greg Steves,
Aye.
Rob Tidrow,
Aye.
Gary Turner.
Aye.
Thank you.
There you go. And that concludes our introductory. So we're ready to begin the meeting. Considering ordinance 2024, who will be making the presentation on that tonight?
I can't, I guess. I just want to be able to see the slides. Thank you.
Please state your name.
Yes, my name is Brian Stumpf with 11th Street Development, and I'm happy to be here this evening to present our proposed development. It's a mixed residential development called Smith Hill. I want to begin with just an introduction to 11th Street Development. We are a small development firm that does, whose background, I'm a landscape architect, urban planner, and real estate broker. I've been doing development work directly for almost since about 2000. And we really are passionate about creating communities that people love. I've got many years as a designer of neighborhoods and builder of communities. And we're here, one of the things that's important to us is when we do neighborhoods, we create developments, that it's tied back into a bigger community picture. We don't just produce widgets of finished lots. It really is about the community's needs. Our sister company is Civic Blueprint. That is one that helps municipal clients with development codes and ordinances and housing issues across the state. So we've helped communities across the state trying to address their housing needs. So our role in this project is 11th Street Development. We had a neighbor meeting last week. It was great. We had probably about 60 people there, which I love having. I know it sounds silly, but I actually do enjoy having neighbor meetings and meeting people and hearing their concerns and addressing them. One of the questions was, well, are you building the homes? The answer is no. We design the community, we create the community, we do the development of the neighborhood, and we sell finished lots to the home builders. Our role, though, as a master developer, we have to approve all of the homes before they can be built in the neighborhood. So not only do they need the approval of the city, they need our approval for the design, and we also are responsible for the ongoing operation of the HOA and its management. The site we're discussing tonight is 80 acres. That is located on the east side of South 37th Street, just south of Bachmeyer Road. It's currently all agricultural with some woods on the site. And when we were introduced to the site, we began to look at, well, okay, what's happening in Richmond? What is the need for housing? Globally, there is a need for housing across not just the state, but across the country. There's a shortage, and that's evident in the lack of listings on the MLS. It's evident in just existing rentals in Richmond, having a vacancy rate of about 1% with waiting lists. And there's a need for move-up housing and new homes in the market for people just to occupy. And this shortage really harms the ability to attract new residents to the community, among things. At the neighbor meeting, one of the questions was, well, because we looked at different information, commuting patterns, market studies, things of that nature. This is from the Purdue University Center for Regional Development, and looking at the commuting patterns right now, every single day we have over 12,000 people coming into Richmond to work. Because the questions, and rightfully so, is, well, how do you know that if there's demand for housing? Does it exist? The answer is yes. I mean, realize the neighborhood we're presenting tonight, if we, of those commuters, it would be 3.5% of the commuters would fill up this neighborhood. It shows you how many people are commuting in. Also, Tracy Cross and Associates just completed a housing study for the county here, for the community in December. And they're identifying that over the next 10 years, there will be an annual demand for 450 homes. So 450 homes every single year. If you look at that, the Smith Hill neighborhood, this is a multi-phase development. It will take about 5 years or so to build. In that time frame, this neighborhood will be less than 20% of the demand that is in the market. As a planner, I have to start with the comprehensive plan and when I'm coming up with neighborhoods. And it stuck out to me that in your Richmond Rising Plan, it identifies one of the goals is to attract and retain residents and workers, that Richmond has to grow. And we've got to do that in order to attract a labor base to the community, to provide areas, move-up homes for people that currently exist in the neighborhood, and a diverse selection of housing. Also, in the comprehensive plan, it talks about higher standards and conditions for design and how we improve the housing stock and provide newer housing stock that is high quality and seeking to have pedestrian-friendly developments. This here is your current zoning map. The area we're talking about is outlined in black. It's currently zoned R2. We are seeking a planned development designation, because what we don't want is we don't want 80 acres of sameness on the site. This could be developed as a residential subdivision now and have a lot of the same things on there. The city, again, going back to the goals of the comprehensive plan, the city benefits from having a mixed residential neighborhood. And that is sort of our genesis for Smith Hill. So the plan shows a mixture of residential uses. In the northwest corner, there at 37th and Bachmeyer, we've got about 11 acres that is set aside for multifamily, and by that, we're looking at townhomes and then walk-up apartments. I'll get into the details of these products here in just a moment. We also are looking at 4 different single-family home collections that you see represented in the different colors. And what this does by having a mix is allows us to hit a broader segment of the market in Richmond. We're not just selling to one type of buyer, but we're selling to many types of buyers. And the development will be handled, it'll be done west to east. So we'll be starting on South 37th Street and developing in phases and heading east. This is a little snapshot of the single-family home collections that are in the neighborhood. We have cottages and courtyard villas. These are maintenance-free homes that'll be $250,000 to $300,000. And then we have 3 different collections of traditional single-family homes. Our Brookside homes are we're targeting a 275 to 325 range. Sunrise homes will be 325 to 375, and then custom homes, we're probably looking at about 600 and above. And speaking with some of the builders locally, it definitely seems like a market that there's the opportunity for. So looking at the Brookside homes, these are just some examples. These are 1- and 2-story homes, typically 3-bedroom, 2-bath, with a 2-car garage. That'll be probably 1,600 to 3,200 square feet, and these are on 60-foot wide lots. What you'll see, the way that communities are evolving and residential neighborhoods are changing. Your 60-foot lot tends to be your sort of bread and butter lot. They can provide a setting for a wide variety of homes, and so that's what we're seeking here with the 1- and 2-story homes. The next price point up is the Sunrise homes. These are $325 to $375. We estimate that they'll be on 75-foot wide lots, the minimum. They'll be 1- and 2-story homes, usually 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, with a 2-car garage, and we expect the square footage of the homes to be about 2,400 to 3,500 square feet. And then the custom homes will be 100. They'll be on minimum size of 100-foot lots, 1- and 2-story homes. We expect 3 or 4 bedrooms. These will be where the other collections will be builders. Will have floor plans or home collections. These will be true custom, where the home will be designed for that lot. So we're looking at these being probably 2-story, 3 or 4 bedroom plus with, I'd say you'll probably see minimums in here around 3,000 square feet. Now, in the center of the neighborhood, we have some smaller lots. And this is our subsection E, I believe. These are set up for 2 different products. Not quite sure exactly which one will go, so I want to show them both to you. The first, and both are maintenance-free living. The first are courtyard villas. These are set up to be essentially detached quadplex units. This is sort of how the origin of it. And so these are individual homes. In the lower left corner, you'll see how we've got the 4 homes are all independent and they're separated from each other, but they have a common shared driveway, 2-car garage, and then they each have little private spaces. What you see in the elevation is the architecture. And these are 1-story homes, really targeting empty nesters, usually 2 bedrooms with a flex space or 3 bedrooms with a 2-bath house, 2-car garage. And the square footage is anywhere from 1,400 to 2,000 square feet in the plans that we're looking at. Then the other element, the other option for those 2 small sections in the center neighborhood would be our maintenance-free cottages. Now, the cottages are a little different in the fact that they do not have a road in front of them. It's about the design of the community. We're actually currently getting ready to break ground on a cottage community in Lebanon later this year. These will be in the $250,000 to $300,000 price range as well. They're 1-story, 2 bedrooms with a flex space or 3 bedrooms, and then 1.5 to 2 baths. The square footage on these is a little bit smaller, so about 1,000 square feet to 1,400 square feet. And the parking, and so why you see some of the requests in the PD district for this, the sub-district that affect the cottages, is because the parking happens on the side of the unit. So here's an example. You'll see the homes that are fronting upon the green space in the center, and then the cottages, the parking for the cottages is provided off the street, but adjacent to the buildings. And this is an example of what those cottages look like. So the homes themselves front on to a common area and create this nice little kind of courtyard or cluster. And then in the northwest portion of the site, we have 11 acres. In that 11 acres, we're looking for mixed residential. We're requesting, we expect 2- or 3-story walk-up apartments. We do have, this is the one area we break from pure residential. One of the things we're seeking our approval is the possibility to put a daycare use on that site or in that portion of the site, which we would expect to be maybe 1 or 2 acres if it were to come about. That was one of the things that we have also seen and heard quite a bit about the need for that in the community. So for the apartments, these will be market rate apartments. Again, we'll be adjusting our PUD to make sure that that market rate element is clear in the language of the plan development. There'll be a variety of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, and we expect that the rents will probably be anywhere from $1,100 to $1,600 per month. Now, one thing I will identify, we have our base zoning district. We're defaulting to the M2 district for this area. We're showing 2 and 3 units, and looking through the ordinance today, I see that the maximum height is 60. We do not want 60-foot buildings, so we'll make sure that we have, I'm happy to commit that we will have buildings that are no taller than 3 stories out there. At the neighbor meeting, one of the questions was about community amenities. Well, we don't have this neighborhood isn't showing a clubhouse or things of that nature. That's because in discussions, and what we would like to do here is what we've done elsewhere, which was, given the proximity to Forest Hills Country Club and the improvements that they've made, that the residents of Smith Hill would have social memberships to the country club, and that would use those facilities for the amenities of the neighborhood. That works out well as far as providing membership and a revenue stream for the country club, as well as providing great amenities, a higher quality amenity than they could have if it were to be located within the neighborhood itself. We are sensitive to things. I know that this little tree here, I've heard about this little tree since I first came to this property and drove by and saw how it was decorated. So one of the questions I've had, probably one of my most common questions is the tree staying? And the answer is yes. It's actually within the right-of-way of Richmond, so I need the city's help on protecting it. But it's not in the way of anything we are proposing, but I did want to address that because I've been out there, I've seen it decorated for different seasons. It's awesome. We need to keep that. Now we'll jump really into the weeds. One of the items that, and Dustin and I were talking about this, is like, so what are you trying to get at here? We are seeking, your UDO talks about driveway separations from intersections. And this goes back to a previous battle, put it this way, or interpretation. This is a neighborhood where you see a T intersection. And I had a community that was saying, no, and understand, these blocks are really short. They're only 5 or 6 homes long. And you'll see Smith Hill, our blocks are short. In this neighborhood, they wanted to have no driveways anywhere within 100 feet of the intersection. So you couldn't put anything for 200 feet on the east side of the road. And you'll see that on the southwest corner of this intersection, it's a side load garage on that house. Well, it was important to have the garage back towards the property line so the good side of the house faces out. If you're forcing that driveway to be on the inside, all of a sudden you're looking at the back side of the house and it's pushing the house closer to the street. This is the designer in me, in being particular about how things get placed on the site. So that's why that provision is in the ordinance. One of the other items that we discussed at the neighbor meeting is the perimeter and landscape buffers. So we will have and commit to a minimum of 20 feet around the perimeter of the site for a landscape buffer. Our goal there is to protect the existing trees and then to fill in and add in additional landscaping to provide that buffer. You'll notice if you look closely at the site plan, we try and use ponds, curved streets, and other things to make that separation a little bit deeper, having more space between the lots and the homes. And with that, so the staff analysis for this support identifies that this project is done in alignment with the comprehensive plan, supports the city's goals are identified in the comprehensive plan and the city's climate action plan. It benefits the community by having multiple home types in there, and we do request a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission to the council. I'm available for any questions you may have.
For commission members, any questions?
I do. You described the buffer area. Mm-hmm. Is the buffer area, who's that to be maintained by the property owner or who?
Yeah, there's 2 different ways we can do that, and I've actually shown both of them on the plan. If you look on the very south portion here, we're showing a common area in that location, and I'm happy to handle this either way. One way is to put it in common area, so it's not part of the lot. That would be maintained by the homeowners association. The other way to do it is just make a deeper lot, which is what we're showing on the east. We put a deeper lot, so we extend the lot, what would be the standard lot depth, make it at least 20 feet deeper, put a landscape easement in there, and then the HOA can also enforce the maintenance of that if a neighbor isn't. So if the property owner takes the trees out or something like that, they've got the authority to put the trees back in there. We've done it both ways. I say if it's in common area, the taxable rate of the property is 0 because the common area cannot be alienated from the site. When it's on, I've been in certain communities where they've actually requested we don't have it in common area and put it on the lots because then it's part of the, not much, but it adds to the tax bill a little bit. So.
Other questions from the commission?
I have one other question,
Yes.
full of questions. Will there be sidewalks in this development?
Yes. Everything follows the city standards, so we'll have sidewalks on both sides of the street.
Okay.
That's very important for connectivity.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Mike.
You talked about a 5-year deployment plan, if you want to call it that, a build plan. How's it going to be phased? What's the plan in terms of phasing? Is it going to be one section at a time, or a little bit of all of it?
Yeah, no, it'll be one section at a time. So the entrance that you see on 37th Street is the main entrance. 37th Street, frankly, it's a beautiful road to see. Some of it does development. It's not a two-lane goat path. It was designed in anticipation of the development of this area. So our front door is on 37th Street. That street sort of winds up the hill, and we will be developing from east to west in sections. Typically, each section will have essentially the number of homes you'll be selling that future year, and that development will keep happening. So once perfect world, we have our approvals. We still have many other steps in this approval process.
Sure.
But we would like to start moving dirt in the fall and put utilities in over the winter, finish the lots up in the spring. So have lots ready for sale in the spring. And then we'll immediately move into Section 2 next year and start continuing on.
The apartment, or should I say the multifamily location, what's the planning on timing of that build?
That I don't know, and that's why I left it kind of the nebulous color, because I don't know the specific mix of what's going in there yet. We're talking to a couple apartment builders. We've done some preliminary engineering on the site, so I'm very comfortable with the pond sizes and their locations that you see. The pond there in the multifamily area is representative of what will be needed to handle the stormwater there. But as far as the actual mix, we're working with a couple apartment builders to see what they would need. In my perfect world, again, I prefer a mix of uses. I don't want
Sure.
one and the same. In fact, that's why you see some of the elements in the PD ordinance. One of the requirements is that we're striking the maximum number of buildings on the site, because it says there a maximum of 10 buildings are allowed on the site. Well, this is an 11-acre site. You'd be forcing all those units into just 10 large buildings. We don't want that. We would like to have, that's the reason we wrote the PD the way we did.
Sure.
We envisioned 2- and 3-story apartments and possibly even transition with some townhomes.
The reason I bring that up is that downtown Richmond has plans to build apartments. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if timing-wise there's a conflict in your proposal and that proposal. So in terms of flooding the market, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a question for you, Dustin, or it goes beyond that. You're probably not in a position to answer that question.
I'm not familiar with the exact timing of downtown. So.
My understanding of the housing study indicates that I think there's enough need to grow multifamily housing stock to accommodate both the Elder Beerman project and this.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, that's the one I'm speaking of. Certainly, I wouldn't want to conflict with that. Certainly. Okay. One more question, having to do with the relationship with Forest Hills, the country club. Mm-hmm. The original plan for social membership was a direct connection between Reed Hospital and Forest Hills. So, understanding that the ownership of this property is associated with Reed Hospital, at least from the standpoint of the powers to be that own and manage that property. So my question is, do they have to be a certain level of Reed employee to have those benefits at the Forest Hill Country Club as part of your project?
It's a great question. The answer is no. And what will happen is that the way we've done this before is that as part of the HOA dues, they pay a fee. In that fee, essentially the HOA is buying their membership to the country club. And so all the homes in there, all the single-family homes at least, will be members. The apartment folks, they may have their own amenity center. I'm not sure about that. That's up to the individual apartment developer. But the As far as the single-family homes go, that's the arrangement we've done in the past, and this is what we're pursuing here.
Okay, well, we can use the membership.
That's right. Lynn?
I was having trouble putting the courtyard villa picture of the open space around those houses into this map.
Yeah, so these would be where you see the arrow shows up. Yeah, it does. So that would be, these are showing the courtyard villas here on these sort of darker orange lots. So it would be, instead of those courtyard villas, we would have the cottages with the parking in between the homes. So we'd have these different courtyards of, let me back up here. So picture on the left here, this would be our public street, and then we'd have the courtyard that they front on would be, let me jump back here. So we'd have, the courtyard would run, in this location would run east-west, with the homes fronting on the central courtyard.
So that arrangement wouldn't be quite like this.
The lots would have a slightly different configuration. This is showing the courtyard villas with the shared driveways, the 4 units on the shared driveway. It would be a slightly different. I would expect that it would be very similar to this, where we have a street on each side with the little courtyard. Usually with the courtyards, you want to have, I don't know, tends to be 6 to 10 homes fronting them. The goal is to have small pockets, where essentially what I've seen, neighbors really care about it. The reason we're doing this in Lebanon actually comes down to a personal reason of a place for my mother-in-law. It'd be a perfect spot for her.
Greg?
I have one other question about infrastructure. So when this is built out, will this be built out in phases, or will all the infrastructure be put in at one time?
No, it'll be built in phases. So the first section will start off of South 37th Street. The remainder of the site will continue to be agriculture and farmed. And so every year we'll just bring a new section of the development in. We'll put the roads and sewer and water in, and then move on.
Tiana?
Yes, has there been any environmental impact studies done on this?
No. We've done sort of a desktop phase 1, but that's part of the due diligence that we'll do. Our initial review has not shown any historic or wetlands or things of that nature.
Other questions from the commission? I think it might help for me to say a couple words about this process. Tonight, we're really just talking rezoning, and if this is approved, we'll move on to a much more detailed plan. And at that time, the developer will be able to answer the really detailed questions about stormwater, water supply, other utilities, and timing as to when infrastructure goes in, how much at one time. And those details won't come out probably for another 6 months, probably, roughly.
Yeah, when we come back for a primary plat approval.
Right. So tonight, we're just talking rezoning. And with that, I'm going to ask you to give your staff report. And
Public hearing?
Do you want to do public hearing first, or it's, oh, thanks.
well, we can. I think we used to do staff report first, though, but we'll do it last. Well, in that case, we will open the floor for public hearing, and we're going to start by asking for those people here to speak in favor of this project to come forward first. And we only do that because that's the custom we follow in city council meetings, so I'm a creature of habit. And the first name on this list is Mike Frame. Remember, 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Mike Frame with Trademark Construction, and we've been probably the builder of the most homes in this community over the last quite a few years. And we've really enjoyed that. And we wake up every morning excited about it. And when I see this project come forward, it excites me for a lot of reasons, and one of them is we have no inventory of lots. We're running out real quick. We've built out Meadow Park over the last few years, which Paul developed, and he's down to the last couple lots, and I've talked to him about that yesterday on figuring out what we're going to do with those. I've just recently been before you talking about 6 lots on Garwood Road, which we will build out this next year in its entirety. Maybe some of the people here, including you, Michael, live in Sandbridge, and there's some additional lots in the works there, but I'm not real sure when that's going to be done. We'll see. So it's just we study a lot. We see a lot of studies done, and I'm sure Valerie will talk about this when she comes up here. But the need for housing, and not just Richmond, but Wayne County and our state as a whole. I've gone to Realtor Association conferences, builders conferences within the state and within the national level, and the focus is more on housing now and the need for housing than it really ever has been in my career, and my career stretches 30 years. So it's just pertinent that we kind of keep up with that. I talk to people daily about building, and the reason they want to build is there's no, resale homes. The inventory of even resale homes existing is as low as I've ever seen it here. So when you can't find a resale home that meets your needs, I get to talk to these people about building, and then we get to talk about where we're going to build. And the need to have a place to build is ever present. A lot of the funding and the grants that you see coming from the national and the state level has shifted focus to infrastructure and housing because they see that need, and they're really pushing that. It's just one of those things that, it's this. I've developed a lot. Is that my 3 minutes? Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, before I'm done, real quick, I'm working with a customer now who is moving here from Westfield, and he's taking a job here. Well, his wife, she was on the Westfield City Council. And in looking up 11th Street development, I noticed, they've done quite a bit of work in Westfield. So I called her up and I said, hey, do you know these guys, 11th Street development? She goes, yeah, I know Brian. I've known him since early 2000s. And I said, well, what do you think? And I'm just going to read you a couple of her comments because she emailed me a pretty nice thing. She said, he's a great guy. He's a smart guy. He has a big interest in small town theories, mixed use, alternative housing, ADUs, great at putting together some good plans. He's highly regarded in the Hamilton County area. He's more of a forward-thinking, progressive guy, and his strongest skills are site conceptualization, creativity. He's deepest history in residential, and she said she would trust him with designing any project. And that's from somebody who was on the city council in Westfield. Thank you very much. Any questions?
We don't take questions.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Oler.
Good evening, Ron Oler, Mayor, but I think you know that. First of all, I'm going to say, Commissioners, thank you for your due diligence here. I spent 12 years up here on council, and I spent last year on your advisory plan commission, and it was a good learning experience to understand your whole process of how we rezone things. And as Gary mentioned earlier, how this process works. Developers spend a little bit of money creating these plans, but until they get the rezoning done, they're not going to spend all the money with all the engineers on the drainage and the water and everything else, and I appreciate that too. So, yes, of course, I'm in favor of this. I could read you this 50-page housing study we just got back, but I was told I'm not supposed to take more than 3 minutes, so.
Right.
Over the next 10 years, less than 10 years, we need 450 new homes. We have the market for 450 new homes. Every day, we have 2,500 people driving from Marion County to Richmond and Wayne County to work every day. That's crazy. That's crazy from the mayor's standpoint because I've got a police department and a fire department that live on property taxes. 60% of our annual budget is police and fire department. And every time these citizens here call 911, they wanted to show up. And that'll only happen if we continue to increase our housing stock, so we continue to increase our income from property taxes. But it's not just that. We've got, Reed's going to talk in a little bit, I hope, about how many people they have living in Ohio. So our Economic Development Corporation is not collecting their taxes on the income side. And I'm not just about taxes. I'm not greedy for taxes. I'm greedy for the services that the citizens of Richmond deserve. Richmond's at a huge turning point. My wife would say we're on the precipice of something amazing, and we really are. And it starts with revitalizing downtown. You know, Eli Lilly believes in us and granted us $25 million for revitalizing downtown. That's huge, thanks to Earlham College. But we also got to have other housing. You mentioned the apartments that we're going to build downtown. It's two different clients in my mind. And from the developer's perspective, the people in these apartments downtown want one kind of a lifestyle, which is different from the people who want the single-family housing. And even the apartments out there, one of the things they failed to mention, our national trail runs through there, our bike trail and a walking trail. So there'll be a way for residents to walk to retail stores from there. So it's a little bit different mix than what we have downtown. So I think we have a need for both. Right now, I know we have a need for both with a 1% vacancy rate, because normally you would want a 5% vacancy rate so that you have people moving in and out of houses. We can't move. There's nothing to move to unless you want to wait for a period of time and have something built. And that's what we're talking about, is building stuff in blocks. So we can have a whole group of homes built and then people can move into them. People like some of the people here tonight, it can be an upgrade to move into it. Some people will move into them as empty nesters wanting less yard to mow. And I'm over here thinking myself, and I'm not saying this because I want this done for a lot of reasons. I'm not saying I'm going to move there, but I am getting tired of mowing my third of an acre over there by Charles School. So I'm getting to the age where I'm up ready to move into one of these places that's taken care of through an HOA. Never thought I'd say that. That's crazy. But anyways, I think most or all the city administration's in favor of it, so I look forward to your due diligence. Now, you will hear some people who will comment that they enjoy the natural view. I enjoy the field. I enjoy see the deer running through the field when I drive by. But I think it wasn't that long ago when Sandbridge was just a field. It wasn't that long ago when Winfield was a field. It wasn't that long ago when Hunters Point didn't exist and it was just a field. So all these things happen. They happen over time, and I welcome the growth and the expansion. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was going to strike, I could pronounce it, I just can't read it.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you, everyone. I'm here as the president of Earlham College, and I just wanted to address specifically the need for housing here, because I think it's a problem for a lot of us. So when we began the community meetings with leaders in the community for these college and community grants, the $25 million grant that the mayor alluded to and that we were awarded, yay. What we heard from every single person was that housing was our number one issue. And I was actually surprised. I thought I would hear something different, but everyone said the same thing. I myself lost an incredible vice president who moved to the north side of Chicago to a different position after less than a year because she could not find a house to buy. We've lost several faculty for the same reason, and we've had trouble recruiting faculty. And, we're a living and learning community as a small liberal arts college, and we have faculty now living in Indy, living in Ohio, driving an hour or more. It's just not good. Len Clark can tell you liberal arts colleges do better when the faculty are right there. I'm grateful. I just want to say one final thing. I am really grateful that my husband and I bought our forever home in Centerville at the very start of COVID. But even then, coming from California, I have to tell you, I was surprised there was already an offer less than 24 hours after it was listed, and we managed to pull it together to beat them. But, my vice presidents aren't having as much luck, and my faculty aren't having as much luck. And I would love to see all of them here in our community, in Wayne County and in Richmond. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Kenyon.
Evening.
Good evening.
Thank you all for attending this evening and for participating in this process. I'm Craig Kenyon, President and CEO of Reed Health. I'm here to provide some background information on Reed's involvement in this important community project. In particular, I'd like to share about Reed's role in this project and our why for being involved. As a way of background, in 2021, Reed Health acquired the South 37th property purchased through South 37th Street Properties, LLC, managed by Reed Health. Reed did not acquire the property to make or lose money, and our role is not to serve as a developer or an investor. Instead, Reed's interest in the property is to serve as a conduit or catalyst to help meet a growing need in our community for market rate housing. To accomplish this, since 2021, we've been working alongside the city and the Economic Development Corporation to identify a developer willing to make an investment in our community and launch this project. We're pleased that 11th Street Development has agreed to be that developer and help our community meet the needs for more market rate housing. As to the why, a recent housing study compiled by Tracy Cross and Associates that we commissioned cited that approximately 12,000 people commute into Wayne County for work each day. If just a portion of these individuals moved to Wayne County, we would see a stronger tax base, increased retail, higher school enrollments, improved population health, increased participation and support of our nonprofits, and overall growth in our region that promotes future investment for our city and our county. This is why Ready 2.0 process identified housing as a region's top barrier or opportunity to solve for economic growth in our region. To reinforce the number cited in the Cross study, Reed Health employs approximately 3,200 employees, and we see a similar dynamic in our workforce. Of those team members, 3,200 of them, 1,400 live outside of Wayne County. 571 employees commute from Ohio. This is a retention problem for Reed. Not living in Wayne County creates a scenario where these employees may live equal distance from one health system or another in Dayton or Indianapolis and aren't part of our community and can easily work elsewhere because Richmond and Wayne County are not their home. For us and so many employers in the room, one of our best retention strategies is to live here and work here. But we have to have the housing for this strategy to work. In addition to our effort to maintain scarce skilled talent, we must consistently recruit scarce skilled talent. A 2024 study conducted by Nursing Solutions, which is a nursing recruitment firm, said the following about Reed's ability to recruit nurses. Recruitment to Richmond market can be a challenge. Although the cost of living and affordable housing is a plus, limited availability, only 12 units available, and diversity of housing options is a major obstacle. Reed currently has 240 open positions for hire. Of those openings, 126 require medical credentials or are considered scarce skill. We are in desperate need of these positions so we can continue to meet the needs of our community. Some of our specialty physician offices are scheduling visits and procedures several months out simply because we don't have enough providers. Every time we lose a prospective candidate because of a housing shortage, it impacts our ability to deliver care. The same is true in nursing. Reed needs nurses, and our teams are stretched thin on the floors and in our offices. This housing project directly links to our ability to care for our community. So I could go on and talk about the benefits of the project, but I know there's several people that are waiting and I'm out of time. So thank you for your thoughts and consideration for this project.
Thank you. Jason Trotwine.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to present and for allowing this process to occur and take place. For full disclosure, I work at Reed Health. Tonight, I'm not coming to you from a Reed Health position. I share my own thoughts, my own perspective. As someone who lives on Dorothy Lane, so I live 2 blocks from this proposed development. Someone who runs on South 37th a couple times a week when the weather's a little better than it is right now. And someone who has a lot of really close friends and neighbors in this room who I hope to still have a relationship with after I speak right now. I've lived every day of my life in Wayne County. I've never lived anyplace else. Growing up here, I've seen our community change. During my 50 years, I've seen our population decline from 44,000 people in 1970 to approximately 35,000 people that we have today. And Wayne County is similar. It's declined from 79,000 to 66,000 in that same time period. We've seen businesses such as Natco, Perfect Circle, Carpenter all close. We've seen other local businesses sell. We've seen our downtown become a shell of what it once was. Although I'm very optimistic, and thank you, Earlham and the Lilly Endowment, because I'm thrilled about the possibilities of downtown. I've watched our community change over time, and I've routinely heard comments like, Richmond isn't what it used to be. We've all heard those comments. We've heard community members tell their kids, you don't want to live in Richmond, go to Indy or someplace else. My son lives in Indy. I didn't tell him that. And we've heard our kids ask, why would I want to live in Richmond? And my son did ask me that. We complain about our community, yet when an opportunity presents itself to be better, we often choose not to seize it. And that's what my fear is about tonight. My question to this group and the audience tonight is, who do we want to be? What do we want Richmond to look like? Do we want to be a community in which our kids want to stay? Do we want to be a community in which our businesses want to invest? Do we want to be a community in which we have pride and don't talk negatively about it? Do we want to be one that's growing instead of gradually dying? If we want to be vibrant and growing community where people want to choose to live, this is our time. This is our now. This is our moment. We heard it last week at the chamber dinner. At least 4 presenters talked about the numerous investments in our region and how this can be a turning point for our community. We have large, once-in-a-generation type investments, such as the Ready 1.0 project that you talked about, Mike. We have Ready 2.0 funding available to us. We have help funding. We have the Earlham funding through Lilly Endowment for Revitalize Richmond. And this is our chance to change our trajectory of our town, to create a new vision for Richmond. I realize this project isn't going to solve all of our problems. I know that. But it's part of the solution. Each of these projects are part of the whole. Without one, the others aren't as strong, and they minimize our opportunity to create a vision for Richmond. When this piece doesn't happen or that piece doesn't happen, the vision isn't fully realized. I understand there are questions and concerns about the project. I respect my friends and my neighbors who are in the room who are engaging in this process, but I hope that we won't pass this opportunity up so that we can once again say that our town is a place where our kids want to live, our businesses want to locate, and then some place that we talk about our community with pride. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Valerie Schaefer, and I'm the president of the Economic Development Corporation of Wayne County. You've already heard tonight from other speakers that we have such a strong demand for housing in this community, so I want to expand upon that just a little bit and share that this dates back to 2020 when the EDC first embarked on our new strategic plan. And that plan identified that in order for us to enhance our community's quality of life, it must be a priority for the EDC. And that is what's going to help us attract and then retain industry. Enhancing our quality of life enables our employers to attract and retain the talent that they need in order to then make their ventures successful. So our strategic plan further identified that we must focus on removing barriers to the community to be an attractive place to live and work. And the lack of housing was identified as one of those barriers. So moving forward, we embarked on a housing study in 2021. That report indicated we could absorb 130 new housing units per year over the next 5 5 years. Fast forward to 2023, we had so much interest from housing developers that said too much has changed since that study's been completed. Please revise it, and so we did. And so the numbers that you're hearing tonight, based on the December 2023 study, elevated the number of units per year from 130 to 450 units per year over the next 5 years, indicating that we need over 2,000 new housing units over 5 years. And, that's true for ranch and two-story single-family homes, townhomes, villas, and apartments, all of which encompass this new development presented to you today. The need for housing has only grown because there's been no significant movement in the number of new units that have been developed over the last decade. And the factors that lead to the need for new housing include projected in-migration, as a result of both current and future job openings. There are over 2,000 job openings right now in this community, with more on the horizon with Liberation Labs, Anchor Ingredients, and Blue Buffalo, who are building and expanding their facilities today. There's also an opportunity to convert our commuters to residents, as you've already heard. We have projected growth in the number of new households due to demographic changes in the community in the coming years. We have older housing replacement on the rise. You heard we do have a 1% vacancy rate in apartments, which makes that component of this development highly interesting. And just to expand upon the comments that were made about the Elder Beerman project, that development will be higher-end resort-style units. The development that we're talking about for South 37th Street, they will still be very nice higher-end units. However, will not have the same amenities and won't have the same price points of the apartment units that Elder Beerman will have. And our housing economist that just completed that housing study for us indicated that we want to make sure that we have a variety of units in the housing that we're making available and trying to attract to the community. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Chad Bolzer.
Good evening. Thank you for your time and the effort. And I really do appreciate folks who take the time to come up and speak on either side of the issue. It's really worth the time. I come to you as the Chancellor of Ivy Tech Community College. We service Fayette and Randolph and Rush, Union, and Wayne County. And I have been at Ivy Tech since 2014, and in 2019, I was one of those commuters. I commuted from Richmond to Marion County for my employment with Ivy Tech. I was the chancellor here and moved to the state. I stayed in Richmond, during those 3 years, and I say this in support of housing projects. During that 3-year period of time, our community college that serves about 5,000 students in this area had a leadership team that made lots and lots of transitions, people coming in, people going out. And at most of that time, 60% of the leadership team for this service area lived outside of the service area. And when we talked about how to hire those folks and to recruit from the largest singly accredited community college in the country, in which our network spans all over, one of, not the only reason, but one of those was a difficulty to move to this area. So we are always in support of development. We are always in support of options for potential employment. We are thankful that right now our leadership team is full and is here. As I came back in the fall of 22, but we know the difficulty as a small cog in the employment wheel. We only employ about 150 full and part-time individuals. But it is one aspect that we think about all the time as we are trying to recruit talent to this area. So I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Paul Engel.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Paul Engel. I've been, I'm a Well, maybe Lynn and I have been around about the same amount of time, but I've been around here for a while, and we always had a lot of studies, and studies didn't seem to really have a conclusion as to what we should do and look at the community and the county on the basis of good ideas. This Richmond Rising study is the absolute best study of this community that I ever came across with. I'm not going to, believe it or not, I'm not going to read it to you tonight, but I will just share with you what I think sums up the reason why the Smith Hill project makes all the sense in the world. These were the key findings. The following statements are intended to serve as a conclusion. Number one, declining population. Richmond's population has been decreasing for the last several years. I think it was mentioned earlier, in 1970, the total county population was 79,109. 2019, it was 65,884. That's a decline of over 13,000 people. Unfortunately, the people that left had mobility. They could leave. It's the people that couldn't leave, unfortunately, that stayed, that quite frankly, we had to continue to take care of with our resources. The population decline is one of the most paramount reasons that the mayor spoke about earlier. It's no wonder we have difficulties funding our police and fire when we have that kind of declining population. Number two, quality of housing. Nearly 70% of the current housing stock in Richmond was built before 1970, meaning the units were constructed before modern building codes went into effect. The combination of aging structures, high percentages of renter-occupied units, and increasing vacancy rates contribute to the overall quality of housing offered in Richmond. And speaking of number of single-family homes on the market, I checked with the MLS, number of single-family homes on the market as of today, there are 67. That's all of Wayne County. That's not just Richmond. 67.
Wow.
Number three, lack of housing options. In addition to challenges related to the quality of housing, Richmond lacks variety in housing types and price points. The majority of the housing stock is single-family homes. A variety of housing types is needed to attract young professionals and encourage aging in place. So people like me who don't want to live in their single-family home can move into maybe one of these maintenance-free homes in this Hills project. Additionally, Richmond is lacking in the middle range and higher end price points for housing. This could mean workers with healthy salary are having to look for housing options elsewhere. I talked to the developer. I actually, as I think some of you know, developed Meadow Park, Honeysuckle, and Bachmeyer Trace. There's not going to be any more honeysuckles or meadow parks. I think Greg realized that. You're not going to develop 250 lots with 80 to 90 foot of frontage. For one thing, you can't afford it. I mean, the cost, you have to run those utilities, roads, sewers, everything, all the way across that lot. And besides that, most homeowners anymore don't want to take care of it. So that's not going to happen. It's going to be a mixture. All of this transition occurred many, many years ago in metropolitan areas. This concept comes from a metropolitan area. The developer is from Indianapolis and has seen and worked with this and has seen it happen over the last 20 years. Speaking a little bit about the developer, I've had the opportunity to work with him off and on for over 3 years. We had sort of a delay because of COVID. COVID sort of stopped everything. And then we got reacquainted. Because of my experience in developing, Brian and I talk basically the same language. He's the real deal. And I don't personally believe that we have that kind of talent locally to develop subdivisions going forward, or the desire to do it, even if people have the expertise, they're not going to do it. So it takes somebody that's all they do to do that. So I can assure you, from my vetting process, he can do the project, and he knows what he's doing. Besides that, as I've gotten acquainted with him, I've learned that Brian and his wife have 10 children. So I thought, well, if Brian can manage that, he can surely manage this project. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Casper. I can't read your last name, I'm sorry.
In a second, anyway. Good evening. My name is Casper Urbini, and I'm a 25-year-old college graduate currently employed by Belden as a product development engineer, and I speak in support of this development. I'll be straight. Richmond needs better housing opportunities. I received an offer from Belden in March of 2020. Given the state of the economy and the world at that point in time, I signed on the dotted line without a second thought. The first step post-graduation was complete. Get a job. The second was much, much harder. Start building a life. I figured, let's start with finding a place to sleep. Little did I know how hard that would be. In the coming months, I scoured the internet for potential homes. I sent an inquiry email to every complex I could find. That itself was a journey. The number of dead Facebook pages masquerading as websites and full voicemails that hadn't been cleared in years was astounding. Simply knowing where I could live was a college-level research project. When I did get in contact, everyone told a different, terrible story. No availability. Your income is too high. Your income is too low. No, we won't send you pictures of the apartment unless you give us a $1,000 non-refundable deposit today. I was flabbergasted. I've been told my entire life how kind and friendly Midwesterners were. I experienced that in college, and every engagement I had was filled with vitriol, disinterest, and disgust. Like they were doing me a favor by even responding to me. Luckily, I found my current landlords, but even they required a deposit before I ever saw the place. When my mother and I started the 11-hour drive to move me in, I didn't even know if I'd have a place to sleep that night. Even if I did, I fully expected a busted hot water heater or a rat's den. That was how this community welcomed me. Do you think if I didn't graduate in a worldwide pandemic, I would have suffered through that rigmarole? Do you think if literally anyone else was hiring, I would have come here after that experience? My experience is not atypical. My colleague, after wanting to move here for over a year, decided to rent a trailer home in Connorsville because the options here were so poor. My friend won't stop complaining about his apartment complex, but he won't move because there's nowhere better. I can't even count how many potential new hires have turned us down because of the lack of living infrastructure. This community is in desperate need of appealing apartments. We're not asking for much. A washer-dryer hookup, some green space, and a responsive property manager would be enough to outcompete literally every other place in town. This new development would be a fantastic opportunity to make people like me feel welcome in this town you all love so much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Robert Hampton.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Certainly.
I'm the plant manager of Belden here in town. So as Casper spoke, this is kind of the feeling that we get from our younger individuals that come in straight out of college. Not just him. It comes across the board, and we see the same thing with much of the other employers here in town with senior level positions, the commute. and just the housing availability here extends their day, and retention ultimately ends up becoming an issue. So this is a feeding issue that we have here at Belden as well as other employers in town. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our list of folks speaking for. I think it's been a little over an hour. Let's take a 10-minute break and come back and finish this at, let's see, 6:40, 6:50. Good evening and welcome back to the Plan Commission meeting. And we are about to begin comments from those folks who are opposed to the project, and we will begin with Dave Pointis.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Dave Pointis, and my wife and I have lived on Bachmeyer for roughly 40 years. So we have a lot of history over the years. We've raised 4 children in our home, and we've enjoyed the neighborhood that we live in because it's been very great for raising children, and it was always fun along that street. I'd like to thank you for having this meeting to cover all the pros and cons of this subdivision. My wife and I have seen over the years several new additions go in around us, and the one important thing that stands out to us is that new subdivisions blended into the established neighborhoods that were already there. They were complementary. We are opposed to this petition for several reasons. The density of the people and buildings for the area. When you look at that slide up there, you can tell how much of that is going to be covered in either buildings or concrete, asphalt. It doesn't leave a whole lot of room for environmental issues and water runoff and that type of thing. The density of the people, the buildings, the traffic concerns, water concerns are all a problem, and there is the discussion of a potential business in the area for a daycare. First, the density of the people. Based on recent census information for Richmond, we have an average of 1,488 people per square mile, or 186 people per 80 acres, which this would be. Based on the information for this development, they are projecting 428 units. Let's say 2 individuals per unit. That would be 856 people for 80 acres of land. This is 4.6 times the current density average of Richmond. If you add 1 child to each of those households, it makes it 7 times the average for Richmond. Adding this to the current apartments in the area that are east of Walmart, the density in this 1 square mile area is a huge concern for all of us. Second issue is traffic. Increased traffic is a huge concern. Currently, 37 and Route 40 is the busiest intersection in Richmond, and it also is where most accidents, the number one place for accidents, is that intersection. The proposed development would add another approximately 856 vehicles daily to this already very congested area. Getting out of Sandbridge Hills or Hale Terrace onto 37th Street is a challenge now due to site issues and the traffic, which will be even worse with the additional traffic. Of concern to the people in Hale Terrace is the added traffic on Geraldine and Dorothy Lanes due to people taking shortcuts through the neighborhood to E Street. This is a big concern for parents with children playing in this neighborhood. 37th Street, which I do currently bike on regularly, is designated as a bike route, and that will be affected because of the additional traffic. Bachmeyer Road is also very busy. Some days it's difficult to go out and get your mail crossing the street. I would like to thank Stanley Hayes, who founded Hayes Arboretum and had the foresight to set aside property and understand that every square foot of land does not have to be built on. In closing, a better option to have a subdivision like Sandbridge is to have a subdivision like Sandbridge Hills, which is south of the current proposal, which is much less dense in population, building, and asphalt. It is complementary to the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Larry Parker.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members. My name's Larry Parker, reside at 3801 Sandbridge Drive. I'm also the councilman for the 4th District, which is where this plan unit development is proposed to be located. Tonight, I represent myself along with other members of this district. And we all know that someday this land will be developed, but we're opposed and concerned about this particular development for the following reasons. Water issues. Every spring, the northwest corner of the 11 acres designated for the 250-unit apartment building becomes a pond for several months. We all know this because we can see the ducks and the geese there every spring. A retention pond will not solve this problem when the entire 80 acres becomes developed. Additional hardscapes only going to add to this problem. Presently, there's a water problem north of Bachmeyer that is trying to be resolved by the sanitary department. I've been involved with this problem, and the sanitary engineer has stated that the ditch on 37th Street is presently at full capacity. Adding more water due to the density of this project is unacceptable, as there's nowhere for this additional water to go. This water will have to be discharged someplace from these retention ponds, and the only way it can go is west, and there's no room in that ditch for any additional water. The apartment issue. 200 units have been added on Chester Boulevard. IU East is proposed to add additional units for student housing. Elder Behrman location is supposed to add 150 units. Our downtown buildings are encouraged to add upstairs apartments to their buildings. And that development we're discussing tonight is an additional 250 units. With the declining populations, I have no idea where 650 families are going to come from, particularly with the proposed unit rate of $1,100 to $1,600 per month. I almost hesitate to say this, but the one gentleman that said that he was having a difficult time finding an apartment when he moved and worked at Belden, I asked him out in the hall what he paid for his rent, and he said $650 a month. In addition to these apartments, this project is also adding 178 single dwellings on this site. I took an average of only 2.5 people per unit, and that means we're going to be adding 1,070 people to this 80-acre site. It's for these reasons and many more that we are concerned as citizens of the 4th District and urge you to vote no on this project. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Thank you.
Corey George.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for having us. I'll try to stay focused, but tonight has thrown me for a loop just a little bit. I came here to talk about rezoning. I live in Sandbridge Hills. My wife and I were born and raised here. And I always learned, we're taught one thing about real estate, and that was location, location, location. We first rented, we lived on Southwest A, we made our way over to Reeveston, and thankfully, with some good fortune, we landed in Sandbridge Hills. So I'm here to fight for my property, as are many of the other folks from Sandbridge Hill, because we're designated R2. To me, we haven't heard anything, and I had some spirited conversation in the back about what we're here for. We've heard about commuters, I believe it. We've heard about the workforce, I believe it. We've heard about the housing shortage, I believe it. The second piece of advice I was given was buy what you need 10 years from now. Thankfully, I did that. I didn't have the money to do it. We didn't know how we were going to do it, but we did it. So I ask, why are we here? How did this problem start? No one's to blame. I've lived here, I work here, my wife lives here and she works here, and I know many of you personally. We're not talking prevention tonight. We're talking intervention. What we've heard is trying to solve a problem that did not get created and will not be solved by what we're being proposed. For the 12 years we've lived at Sandbridge, I've had 5 neighbors on one side. 4 of those neighbors left Sandbridge, an R2, and went to an R1 property, which is bigger, larger, less crowded. 3 of those were Reed families. That's just a fact. I don't know that the proposal in the development taking us to, as Mr. Pointis just explained, a tighter, different environment will work. As I picture this, because I too run that street, and I appreciate that that's not my property and folks have the right to develop, I support a development that's allowed under the current zoning, which is what I'm here to talk about. But now I picture an apartment building, maybe 5, a parking lot for up to 500, a pond, actually 6 ponds. So as we talk about a young parent, the liability and the concerns that go up, I called my insurance agent. If I have a pool, my rates go up. That's common understanding. There are concerns that aren't being met by the conversation that we've heard about commuters, the workforce, and the needs that had nothing to do with zoning. So as a person that's fighting for my property, as I should, I appreciate you all. I appreciate the jobs that you do. I also offer, I've been a 25-year government employee. I have 21 staff that work in Wayne County. 52% of them live in Richmond. The others choose not to, and that's their right. They live out of county, they live out of state, they live in some of our neighboring communities. They don't have the problems that have been outlined. And again, I'm not disputing that, but what I'm saying is folks have choice. Zoning protects us, and that's what I'm here fighting for. So I hope you hear that. The last part I would like to offer is directly across the street from the proposed project allows this project to happen without any rezoning. It's an M2. The apartment could go there. So we support the residents. We support Southeast Richmond, which is largely R2. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Gary Wiggins.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Gary Wiggins, live at 707 Garwood Road. I'm in my 39th year of living there, so I've got quite a bit of experience. When I moved there, that was in the county, and we enjoyed that. And then when they decided to build that wood plant back behind us, they wanted city utilities, so they wanted to rezone us. And we were made lots of promises of wider streets, sidewalks, curbs, sewers, all sorts of promises that the engineering department of the city promised us. And he said it was mandated that it would be done in 5 years. We were annexed to the city in, I think, 1992. The only thing that we have gotten since 1992 is trash pickup. I have fought many, many times about trying to get some street lights on Garwood Road because it's so dark, and there's a couple of you up there that know that I've done that, and that goes back for a while. In April of this year, Jeff Kappa, that used to have Larry Turner's job, set up a meeting with the current mayor at that time, and he promised me, after a meeting, the mayor promised me and everybody that was at that meeting that he was going to get Tony Foster from RP&L, L.L. Bozell from the street commissioner, Greg Steens, and someone else I'm leaving out. Anyway, and they were going to have a meeting at my house because I asked them to spend 10 minutes in my driveway just to see what that's like. In between the time that Jeff agreed to come out to my house and I called him that weekend, somebody knocked down my neighbor's mailbox and my mailbox. And when Jeff came out in a police officer, he started walking through my yard. He got about 50 feet down my yard, and he reached down, picked up a rearview mirror off of a car. He says, "Here's your culprit." My mailbox is here, 50 feet here. Further down the road is the guy's mirror. You don't do that at 30 mile an hour. That doesn't happen. Right now, this past week, 2 more mailboxes got knocked down, right there on Garwood Road. This project has a entry exit coming out on Garwood Road. When I met with the mayor, it was right after the project was okayed on south on Garwood Road, which is a 250 unit, 55 and older. I think that's the only project that hasn't been mentioned here tonight. We've mentioned all the other subdivisions and all the other things, but nobody's mentioned the 250 apartments there. So what I want, and I've never been able to get in the 39 years that I lived there, is a commitment from the city to do your due diligence and to get out there and make these roads wider. Bachmar doesn't meet city standards. Garwood does not meet city standards. And from 37th Street on out on L Street or Hodgen Road, whatever you want to call it, it also does not meet city standards. And that's all part of that project when they cut South L Street through. They stopped the project because they were out of money. And that was back in the 90s, but nobody's ever come back to finish it. So the street lights stop at 37th Street, and then they get picked back up on the north side of Bachmar Road. All that area down there, we have nothing. So all we've gotten from the city is a bunch of promises. The meeting that the mayor said he was going to have never happened. There's very little interest in the administration to take care of the roads and the other things. It's like going to the grocery store. You push your cart through there, you got a cart full of groceries, and you come up to the checkout and you try to stuff them all in one plastic bag, you're going to rip that bag open. And you people keep approving all these subdivisions, and you don't do any improvement on your roads and your other infrastructure, and something's going to happen. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Susan Yeager.
Thank you for the opportunity to present. My name is Susan Yeager. I live on Stoke Creek Road in the Bachmeyer Trace subdivision. And the primary reason for my opposition is the deficiencies in the sanitary and sewer systems in the area near 37th and Bachmeyer, which Mr. Parker has talked about, and I appreciate that. I had a personal $14,000 expense this past year due to sanitary and sewer backup into my home. There's other neighbors who've had the same situation, some as much as $30,000 of their own expense, of which when we talk to the city, we are told that there is no water problem in our area. But thanks to Mr. Parker and others, that hopefully they're at least recognizing that. It seems that there's always grand new ideas and plans attempting to entice people into Richmond to live. If we're to invest in connecting existing problems for our current residents, demonstrating that the city respects our commitment to the city. I heard one statement, I don't know, can't recall who it was, but my takeaway from what he said was that people who can afford to leave Richmond do, and the rest of us are stuck with, with the folks to pay for their utilities and things. And to me, that's kind of a hurtful thing to say. But we're here and we're committed. We just wish that the problems that exist would be corrected before the new development comes. I'm not opposed to development if it's done in the right way and that the current issues are corrected. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Dawn Otto.
I live at 1120 Danbury Lane. I back up to 37th Street in Sandbridge. I was going to talk about the population, but I'm going to just lightly say, in the 60s and 70s, the classes were 800 students. Now they're less than 300. That's even more than half of a reduction in the population of our young people. So that, and part of that, a big part of that is due to the decline in manufacturing. I mean, everybody's talked about it. We're in the Rust Belt. A lot of people have sent their manufacturing south across the border, including Belden. We've sent a big portion. Belden is a third of the size it was when I started 39 years ago. Many subdivisions were started during that boom of the 50s through the 80s, and many took a lot of years to reach full completion. In our small subdivision of Sandbridge, we still have a few improved lots and several unimproved lots. Nothing's happened. And I know throughout the city, there's some lots, scattered throughout the city that haven't been used. A small PUD was built, Fox Run, on South 23rd, but it was only duplexes and triplexes that matched the size and the style and the price of the homes that exist there, not mixing 4 or 5 different zonings. I don't understand, and they also are on 23rd, which doesn't have retail at the end of their street. The biggest retail area is on the end of 40. I don't understand how we could need or fill a development such as this in a decade or less. We can't build that fast, infrastructure or homes, especially with our waning population, our lower industry, and so many other apartments I've heard on the slate. And if indeed it does take longer, the densest part of this project is going to be the first part. That's the apartments. So the density increases, and that's at the worst part of the water issue. So that's going to be a lot denser until other things go on. And although the total traffic issues won't exist right away, the first phase of this project is going to be added to by construction traffic, quite a bit of construction traffic, to put in the infrastructure that he's talking about. I see a lot of construction traffic coming down L Street and turning up 37th. Added to the fact that the average house in Richmond sells between 125 and 150, maybe 175, some of them, not 250 to 350. So I kind of think we need some smaller subdivisions on less expensive real estate that could be expanded to accommodate these people that are having trouble finding a house. Because this whole subdivision is 250 to 350, not counting the luxury homes that are questionable. There's nothing in there under 250. Many, many developments in this town, for various good reasons, were not completed by the original developer. These developments, like most around here, are not nearly as densely populated as this proposal is. Multi-zone developments are more suited for growing communities closer to the metro areas. I know that the potential next developer who buys this property won't change the standard, or how do we know they won't change the standards set forth by the proposed developer with regard to his elevations, property values, rent, etc.? Another concern I have is corporate development coming in and buying a group of lots, building some quick stick-built homes and leasing them, as is still going on in Roaming Hills. They bought some lots there and they still have some leased there. As to the people who do commute to Richmond, they do so because they prefer living in the small communities, or their family circumstances and lifestyle choices make them want to live closer to a metro area. At Belden, I'm going to address it on the other side, on South 27, we have a lot of people that work from home now. A lot of them are Richmond people, a lot of them are out of town. We hire people from out of town knowing they're going to work from home. So our population base has changed thanks to COVID somewhat, but not everybody that lives out of town can't get housing in Richmond. I've worked at Belden for 39 years, most of my time at the manufacturing facility. Nobody's ever told me they couldn't find housing, and I knew everybody at the plant. So this gentleman at my division office is a rarity that I haven't heard before. So with that said, the traffic has been discussed except the drag racing and the EMS traffic on 37th. We have a lot of EMS and we have a lot of drag racing late at night right behind my house coming off 37 or coming off Hodgin. It's a constant state of concern with me, and I have water south of the hill going down the hill. My backyard is unusable most of the year, and I can't even mow it sometimes because of the depth of the water that's on my property. So I appreciate your time listening to me, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Nikki Phoenix. You know, I didn't know your name was Nicholas. I always
Legally-
thought it was just Nikki.
Legally, it is Nicholas. Nicholas Paula Tarquinio Phoenix. And I'm kind of a misfit in this category because there was no column for undecided.
There you go.
So I am undecided. The property at the north end of my home is the access road off of Garwood. That doesn't concern me. We knew it was there when my father bought the land in 1954. It's an easement. Then that's the one entrance. Then there's an entrance off of 37th. Now, if you look at that whole development, forget the apartments, because they're going to have their own, entrance and exit. If you're looking at both of those, and if you come and sit in my front yard on Garwood, you'll think you're at the Indianapolis Speedway on Carb Day. Because Garwood, if any of you policemen are out there and you want to give tickets, just sit in Garwood. I mean, you'll get your ticket quota filled. Anyway, what I'm saying is one of my biggest concerns, and this isn't meant to be a negative, it's meant to be constructive, is if you look at all the homes, I'm going to leave the apartments alone because they're kind of an entity within themselves. But if you look at all the homes and the cottages and so forth and so on, and normally a household has 1 to 2 cars, sometimes 3. And you see at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, all these people are going to work or school or whatever, and they're all going to come out of their garages and they're all going to be going, and then they have 2 exits, 37th or Garwood. I suggest a stoplight at Garwood and Bachmeyer because that is going to be a mess. The exiting on Garwood will be a problem, or entrancing on Garwood. I have no problem with it being there, but there needs to be access road, deceleration lane, etc. That's a main concern. My other concern is, and I know you may not be able to answer that tonight, and I know we're not to get answers, if this is rezoned as requested, and this falls through with this company, what happens to Smith Hill land that is no longer Smith Hill and it's already been rezoned? Can another company come in and put in HUD housing? Can they put in anything they want? Once it's zoned for a development, does it stay zoned that? Or if the development falls through, does the zoning go back to where it was? I'm very ignorant when it comes to all these things, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jeff. I can't make out your last name, Jeff. Thank you.
I'm Jeff Culbertson. This is my wife, Shelley. And we live at the intersection of Bachmeyer and Henley Road. And we built a home there in 1996. And I can tell you, since 1996, the traffic on Bachmeyer Road is horrendous. Not only that, but traffic on Henley Road goes 40, 50 mile an hour. We have, at times, when we try to pull out of our driveway, which we have a yield onto Henley Road, we try to pull out in our driveway, and there's cars lined up 5, 6, 7 deep on Bachmeyer Road trying to get out. The reason I'm mentioning this is as it exists now. We're trying to get that situated, remedied, but it's only going to be worse if something like this project happens. And the other thing I have is, because I'm somewhat of an environmentalist, I like the geese, the farmland, why is there no studies in taking existing land like blighted areas of Richmond where homes have been torn down and rebuild that area within the existing community? Why does that not happen? Why do we have to take out more farmland and add to traffic concerns when there's already opportunities there. So that's my portion. I'll let my wife speak.
And I want to tell you that where we live, we built our home through Wee Wee Builders. It was one of his last homes that he built. And so when you come up Bachmeyer Road and it tees into Henley, we're the first house here on the right. And I can't tell you, just today, coming here, we about got hit on our driver's door because somebody rolled through the stop sign. I've called the police, I've called the city, I've got
Traffic
zero
division.
response, and I've done that for months.
Yeah, Kevin
For
Smith, I
months.
believe it is.
And I can't tell you that putting that many new places over there is just going to increase the traffic. It's going to do it. I said I'd even pay for the signs to put on the road there. But by doing that and putting that in there, and I agree with Jeff, we've got a lot of homes in Richmond that are dilapidated and needs to be torn down. Why don't we put money into those areas? It's not brand new, I get it. I mean, it's not in the new areas, but taking away from our farmland and our nature
And you could
land.
Right. You could rebuild HUD homes or whatever you want to call it for people that could afford affordable housing and rental and values of property that's going to be less valuable, more affordable for them and for the government.
And in Richmond, Indiana, unless you're an executive or making, both folks in your household are making really good money, these cottages start at $250,000. I just don't see it. I don't see it. We've got other areas that we could do something, but I just don't see that being a feasible option for it. And I hope that you listen to us. We appreciate the time to be able to talk to you. And I would love for anybody, I'll give you my cell phone number, to talk to me about the already congested area. And I know it's not just on Henley Road. Garwood is horrid too. Bachmeyer,
Garwood. It's just gonna
37th
become
Street,
worse.
it's going to get worse.
It's just not, in my opinion, feasible.
And you see people, there's already homes here that are vacant. People are going to leave the city. We've said for years now, probably last 5 years, if we could move our home out in the country, we would. We like our city, but putting this in is just going to make more people leave the city.
It's the traffic and the danger of even living on Henley Road, which Bachmeyer would be even worse.
Yes.
Because people have a straightaway shot.
So listen to the people that already live in your community.
Thank you. And by the way, that is the worst intersection in Richmond.
It is terrible.
Curtis.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
I'll have to say first off that I'm very nervous to be standing up here and speaking in public, so bear with me. I'm up here to get answers, basically from Brian and from possibly you. I emailed Brian last week when we couldn't make the meeting last week and asked a lot of questions. Most of them you answered for me. The biggest question I have right now, say the water runoff is going to go into these retention ponds. Right here, right off Garwood, and right on the edge of that is my back property. My well is right here. How are you going to protect my water? I mean, that's one of the biggest questions I have. I have very, very good, clean well. It is not anything that rusts my pipes, rusts my sinks, corrode anything with lime. It is some of the best water that I've ever drank out of.
Curtis, you need to address the commission.
Sorry.
We don't have dialogue between.
Right, I understand. Okay. Are you going to use local companies to help build this property, to bring in money to our local economy? That's going to help us out in our taxes, at bringing out the firemen, the policemen when we call 911. Other things to think about is, a lot of the people in Richmond don't make a lot of money. I've been here for 55 years. I've been living here 55 years, and I've worked 36 years in my career to make the kind of money I make right now. And the money I make right now would not be able to buy the lowest house in this division. I mean, I've worked around so many people in this town that I know that they don't make $50,000, $60,000 a year. So the people that are coming from out of town to make that $50,000 or $60,000 a year, do you think they're going to try to struggle to pay for a $250,000 home? I don't know. I don't see that happening. And I go along with a lot of people here to say that Garwood Road from Hodgen onto 40 is the biggest drag strip in Richmond right now. If you go on back to Wernley off of Gar Road, on up to that stop sign, you wouldn't believe the speeds people go across my house. It's unbelievable. I won't let my grandkids play out in the front yard because I'm afraid they'll wander out there to get a ball and get demolished by some idiot that's going 80, 90, 100 mile an hour. They want to see how fast they can get from that stop sign to the top of that hill where Gary lives. And it's ridiculous. Some of the roads around this area need to be repaired, need to be widened, and nothing's been done about this. I mean, and like another gentleman said, I think it was Gary, the development on down south from Hodgen on Wernley Road, supposedly 0 Wernley Road, we were here a year or so ago about that development and replanning for that. Did that go through?
Yes.
So then we're going to have 250 homes down there. That's going to be an outrageous price. These homes are outrageously priced. The home or the apartment's going to be built in Elder Bremen are going to be like, what, $1,500 an apartment. And then the development of all the businesses down through uptown, that's going to be apartments above them now that they're trying to make them go through with that. I'm not seeing that there's a need for that much housing that people are going to come from out of town to buy these properties. It seems a little far-fetched to me. $250,000 a house in a tight-knit community is not where I'd ever want to live. I picked this house where we live to be our forever home, to clean it up, to make it ours. We work on it every year, try to make it better. So that when we get to that golden age of retirement, it's going to be just what we need and what we want. And now, what do we got? We're going to have, this property is going to be butted right up against this drainage pond that I'm going to worry about my well, and I don't want to take city water. I don't want to take all the chemical water. I don't want to drink that stuff. This is pure water. Well, you know, the things I worry about it now is we picked this house because of the night sky, how beautiful it is, how quiet it is around there, other than the speeders that fly by in the middle of the night. I mean, I don't know. There's so many questions I had for him, and the biggest one was about my well. But I just want to stand here with the approval of my wife also, that we wish you to vote no on this project. Thank you for your time.
What was his last name?
That was our last.
What was his last name?
I'm sorry?
Curtis, what was his last name?
Richard?
Okay, thank you.
So Dustin, you may give us your report at this point.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance 2 is the petition of South 37th Street Properties LLC owner, 11th Street Development LLC agent, located at 0 South 37th Street in Richmond, requesting a district ordinance and establishment plan approval, requesting to rezone a parcel from medium-density single-family residential to planned development with a combination of medium-density single-family residential, high-density single-family residential, urban residential, and intense multifamily residential base zoning districts. Current use is vacant agricultural. Zoning is medium-density single-family residential. The cumulative tract size is 79.63 acres. Adjacent zoning to the north is medium-density single-family residential and intense multifamily residential. And to the south, east, and west is medium-density single-family residential. Adjacent land use to the north is agricultural vacant, agricultural general farm, and single-family residential. To the south is single-family residential. To the east is residential vacant and single-family residential. And to the west is single-family residential and residential vacant support land for another parcel. The proposed plan development would allow for the subject properties to be used as a mixed residential development. The petitioner has proposed a combination of base zoning districts to correspond with 5 different housing types. Those 5 subdistricts would be guided by the permitted uses, development, and design standards of the respective underlying zoning districts, which you can see on the screen. And then those include the following modifications. Modification for use is related to Subdistrict E, which is a multifamily district, which would permit all permitted uses and accessory uses for the M2 district, plus an additional permitted commercial use, which would be a daycare. As far as the development standards here, this development matrix was included in the district ordinance. It's also in your packet. This more or less aligns with the standards for the underlying zoning districts for each subdistrict. There are variations as far as setbacks go. The setbacks tend to be less than the typical minimum required length in the UDO. Additionally, minimum dwelling unit size, maximum density, and maximum primary structure standards do not apply to Subdistrict E. Article 5.21A1B, which requires a 100-foot separation between a driveway and an intersection along a local street, shall not apply. Article 5.27A1, which establishes a maximum 4-foot height for front and side yard fences, will be modified to allow a 6-foot side yard or street side yard fence. And in Subdistrict D, which is the cottages and courtyard villas, Article 5.15D1 and Article 5.61B, which require a minimum 1-car garage for all single and 2-family dwellings, shall not apply. Article 5.61A, which requires a minimum of 3 off-street parking spaces per dwelling unit, shall not apply. In Article 5.61C1, which states that required parking spaces must be located on the same lot as the dwelling unit, shall not apply. And then finally, the modifications to the design standards. Article 7.11B3 states that residential corner lots smaller than 20,000 square feet shall be 25% larger than the minimum lot area indicated for the base zoning district, and this shall not apply. The establishment plan shows a total of 178 single-family units and an undetermined number of multifamily residential structures not to exceed 250 units, 6 stormwater ponds, and sidewalks. The development is organized into 5 housing types across 9 sections. If rezoned to planned development under Ordinance 2, the property's only permitted uses are as followed. They're on the screen. These, again, reflect the permitted uses that are already allowed within the base zoning districts, the one exception being the commercial permitted use of the daycare in Subdistrict E. On January 11th, 2024, 149 adjacent property owners were notified about the public hearing by mail. We received several responses.
We received a total of 103 letters back. Only 1 was in favor. 83 were opposed. 18 were opposed with comments. And I'm going to send all of them to the board so they can read each and every one.
So let me just say that tonight we'll be not acting on this matter in order that we have the opportunity to read the comments that came in by mail, in fairness to the folks who took the time to commit it to writing for us.
January 10th, 2024, the public hearing was advertised in Western Wayne News. Planning staff consulted with all city departments and utilities to determine any objections based on public health and safety, and no health or safety objections were raised. Representatives from Richmond Power and Light have stated that they will be able to accommodate the project's load, but have some logistical questions they would like to discuss with the developer prior to the second phase of the planned development. Similarly, Richmond Sanitary District engineers would like to discuss stormwater planning and details with the developer prior to the second phase of the planned development. Staff recommends approval for amending the zoning map at 0 South 37th Street from R2 to planned development with an R2, R3, UR, and M2 base zoning designations based on consideration of the following factors. Number 1, Richmond Rising Community Action Plan compatibility. The proposed planned development is compatible with the Community Action Plan's future land use map, which identifies the properties to be developed as part of its traditional neighborhood place type moving forward. The plan further clarifies that appropriate land use attributes within a traditional neighborhood include, quote, single-family detached units is the main type of housing, while single-family attached units such as townhomes can be strategically integrated with the single-family detached units. Apartment buildings and other multifamily units that are integrated into larger cohesive developments where they contribute to the transition from a residential to higher density use are also flagged as appropriate land uses within a traditional neighborhood. Additionally, the development supports several of the plan's objectives and policy goals related to growing the city's built environment, including improving the, quote, city's collective ability to deliver attractive sites for development and redevelopment, end quote, while promoting residential infill within current boundaries rather than developing along outer edges, which could place a strain on community resources. Further, the location of the proposed planned development supports the plan's call to, quote, allow for developments that are compact with convenient access to jobs, services, and amenities, end quote. Finally, the development supports the plan's housing-specific objectives and policy goals, most notably its calls to use strategic and planned development to guide growth, to diversify the city's housing stock to better serve the needs of residents of all ages and abilities, and to encourage residential development in contiguous neighborhoods. Number 2, current conditions and the character of current structures and uses in each district. The combined properties are a large agricultural field surrounded in all directions by single-family houses or vacant land with single or multi-family zoning designations. The subject properties are adjacent to the Winfield, Hale Terrace, and Sandbridge Hill subdivisions, along with several unplatted single-family houses to the north, east, and southeast. Garwood Acres, Bachmeyer Trace, and Reidenauer Place are all in close proximity to the subject property. The proposed development would be a substantial part of a broader trend of residential development within this part of the city. Most sections of the subdivisions noted above have been platted within the past 30 or 40 years, and South 37th Street was installed roughly 25 years ago to accommodate the anticipated increase of traffic and development between East National Road and Hodgen Road. Number 3, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. The most desirable use for the subject properties is residential. The properties are currently zoned medium-density single-family residential, and, as noted above, the proposed land use would be consistent with the city's goals and development trends in this area. Number 4, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. The development should not have a substantial impact on neighboring and nearby property values. The proposed lot sizes and character imagery included in the district ordinance indicate that the homes in subdistricts A, B, and C will be of comparable, if not greater, value than many of the existing nearby properties. The proposed single-family homes in subdistrict D, cottages, and courtyard villas will be smaller than the residences that currently exist nearby, but should have limited effect on the property values of the surrounding area. Subdistrict E, the multifamily apartment buildings running along South 37th Street on the northwest portion of the development, may be a concern for some adjacent property owners, as the 3-story walk-up buildings that are suggested in Exhibit D diverge from the character of neighboring residential properties. While the subdistrict will be required to maintain or install a landscape buffer separating it from its less intense adjacent zoning designation, and will be largely enclosed by South 37th Street to the west, Bachmeyer Road to the north, and the new local street that will service the development to the south, it is possible that the subdistrict could affect the value of the property located to its immediate east. It is worth noting, however, that the adjacent vacant lot to the north on the northeast corner of South 37th Street and Bachmeyer is already zoned intense multifamily residential. So while multi-story residential structures are atypical for the area surrounding this location, it is a permitted use on the adjacent property that is likely to be developed in the near future. Number 5, responsible development and growth. Infill residential growth within an already established residential region of the city, with existing city service and public utility capacity within close proximity to existing jobs, services, and amenities, is considered responsible development and growth. Number 6, the City of Richmond's Climate Action Plan. The proposed development supports the Climate Action Plan Strategy 10F, which encourages planning and zoning processes that promote dense and compact development methods as a means to reduce outward suburban sprawl and therefore reduce the vehicular miles traveled within the city. And then number 7 is just a series of compliances, the Article 4 request that we consider. A, the proposed development is a clear benefit to the community. Yes, the Tracy Cross and Associates housing study commissioned by the Economic Development Corporation of Wayne County has demonstrated a serious need for Richmond to boost its housing stock across the spectrum of housing types and prices. B, the proposed land use is predominantly in line with either the existing base zoning districts or proposed base zoning districts, permitted uses and special exception uses. Yes, the proposed subdistricts are predominantly in line with the corresponding base zoning districts. C, minimum land area requirement of at least 5 acres. Yes, the combined parcels are over 79 acres. D, land use consistency. R2 and R3 must be at least 75% single, 2, or 3 family residential, while UR and M2 must be at least 60% single or multifamily residential. Yes, the establishment plan is currently 100% residential, while the district ordinance allows for the possibility of a daycare in subdistrict E based on its M2 base zoning district. It is highly unlikely that the facility would constitute more than 40% of the subdistrict. In E, open space, R2 and R3 shall have at least 25% open space, while UR and M2 shall have, I wrote 25%, but that should be 20% open space. It's currently unclear whether the establishment plan satisfies Article 4's open space requirements. This will need to be established prior to the approval of the detailed development plan, which is phase 2 of the development process. There's one written commitment, which is that if approved, the property will have 2 years from the date of the approval to either submit a detailed development plan or request a one-time 6-month extension from the Department of Infrastructure and Development. Otherwise, the approved district ordinance and establishment plan will expire per UDO Article 9.10F. Just a couple other things. One, just to reiterate what President Turner mentioned earlier so that we're all on the same page, the plan development is a 3-phase process. And so the district ordinance and establishment plan is the first of those phases, which basically parallels the rezone process. So what you're considering tonight is the more conceptual bird's eye view of whether this specific configuration of land uses and standards is an appropriate use of this area. Things like stormwater and utilities and traffic studies will be required eventually, but that wouldn't be until the second phase, which is the detailed development plan. And then one other thing that I wanted to respond to is just one person's concern about a potential scenario where a new developer takes over and what they would or would not be permitted to do. Approval of this district ordinance and establishment plan basically locks in this very specific arrangement of sub-districts with those sort of underlying zoning districts. So any potential new developer would be required to basically satisfy what is being approved tonight. And if they wanted to modify that at all, that would be considered a major amendment, which would then come back to all of you and go back to council as well. So just to clear that up. And I'd be happy to address any questions that.
Any questions for Dustin from commission members?
Got one question to start. Dustin, is the 100-foot lot width, are all of these minimum lot widths consistent with the base zoning districts that you mentioned?
Yes, we don't have currently a minimum lot width for the subdistrict E, but for A through D, yes, all 4 of those lot widths are consistent.
Thank you.
Other questions? None?
I understand it might be a little early in this process, but I understand from the public improvement standards in the UDO that during the technical review or this commission can require a traffic study. Was that something that was discussed during tech review?
I can't recall if it was discussed. It is something that I think we would want.
I think it's automatic, is it not, UDO? As I read that, it's a requirement.
Okay.
Because of the number of lots that are in
certain
this
threshold.
development. Right.
Okay, got it.
Other questions?
Guess I have one more. Dustin, I understand there was one member of the audience tonight who spoke about the legal ditch or legal drain that follows 37th Street, which I don't remember the name of off the top of my head, being at capacity per sanitation. Did you discuss with sanitation kind of the existing stormwater infrastructure, not on site, but nearby, and its, I guess, capacity to handle the runoff from the basins?
I haven't. There were members of the sanitary district at the tech review, but I think that they were just kind of wanting to wait and see what happens at this phase. And then, and then I know that Brian has mentioned reaching out to our sanitary engineers as well, but offhand, I'm not.
Okay. And on that note, I might, since the county surveyor is responsible for maintaining the legal drain, that might be a helpful party to involve in those discussions moving forward too.
And I would make the observation for Brian that I think it would be worth your time to attempt to clarify what that situation is on that ditch before our next meeting. Obviously not asking you to design a system, but at least verify that we've got an outlet that's got capacity in it, or with modification, we'll have capacity in it. Other questions? Well, in that case, I'll call for adjournment, and we will meet here again. Our next date of meeting is what?
February 28th.
February 28th. 28th.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.